Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal studios. You're here on youtube.com, facebook.com, and mixlr.com, all /Wake Up Call DT. Wherever you're watching and listening from around the world, we appreciate you being here. And of course, on WakeUpCallDT.com. So Sterling Hofrichter here with me. I got to talk with Sterling as he was getting recruited by Syracuse. So before he even got to Syracuse, then his time at Syracuse, and then on into the NFL. Sterling, it is crazy how quickly time flies. Where I remember driving by your high school when I was in my travels and speaking with you, obviously before then, about your recruitment and whatnot. And then it was almost like a blink of an eye. You were at Syracuse and then it was done. And now you're off to the NFL. Has it felt that quick for you?
Yeah, it feels like, I look back and I'm like, wow, I was at Syracuse, 2 years ago, and it seems like it was one forever ago, or also just feels like it was yesterday. So it's like kind of strange how it goes by so fast. People talk about it all the time. And I'm like, I was there for 5 years and it still does not feel like I had, a full 5 years at Syracuse. And, it's times where it's like, man, I wish I was still at Syracuse, but it's also, nice to kind of move on and continue on with your life.
And you've had the opportunity to have longevity. These couple of seasons in the NFL, you've been able to find a very rare job as a punter in the NFL. But before we go there, I want to go back to your recruitment and go back to your times coming from Armwood High School down in Florida. And like I said, going by that high school and getting to experience that. And I was just kind of in my travels. I drove and it was on the left side of the highway to me. I think I texted you then, like, I just passed your high school. So, bring me back to the Armwood days and just what you reflect on now and maybe appreciate the most.
Yeah, there's so much to be grateful for back then. You realize a lot of things kind of like when you get past out of the high school phase, um, there's someone that told me a saying one time that's basically like, to play high school football, you have to like football. To
Yeah.
play college football, you have to love it, and play in the NFL, you have to live it. So it's like it gets harder and harder, more demanding as time goes on. But looking back, it's a blast to play high school football, kind of just be out there and play with your best friends in school and everything. So like I said, there's times I miss that too, and I miss the high school days. We are always a really good team too, so it was always fun to play because we pretty much always won.
Yeah.
And it's great to kind of go back every once in a while and check out the high school, check up on my coaches that are still there, and see some of the new players now.
And going back to that time period, what can you attribute to, any coach or mentor there that really helped you become the specialist that you are?
Yeah, I think each and every coach there that's either still there or was there when I was there have a huge impact on me. They kind of like more. There's some they like knew how to coach. They were strict when it came time to be strict, but they're also kind of laid back and chill when it was time to do that as well. So they helped. They really helped teach me how to basically be a pro through football. So it's all about learning how to have fun and enjoy it, but also when to lock in and really focus on your craft.
Coming here from Sterling Hofrichter as he joins us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Cafe Kubal studios. You come off to Syracuse and you're on the Ray Guy award list multiple times. You have so many accolades. If anybody goes through and looks at your history, it's incredible. Is there one or two or three that stand out to you of all of the things that you got to achieve at Syracuse?
I don't know if anything really stands out to me. There's a lot of times I kind of forget about, all the things I accomplished in college just because I'm kind of focused, on where I'm at now. But it's funny like bringing that up because I'm actually doing an internship right now with the Boys and Girls Club here in Atlanta, and so I went through like my interview and gave them my resume, and they're like pointing out like all the accolades I had, and it's just kind of like, to me it's just like not that big of a deal because I'm just like I kind of believed in myself that I could do it, but then to other people it's like what an accomplishment that is. So it's like kind of cool to see that, and it's always something I believe that I could do with my ability. I knew it wouldn't come easy, but I've always been the one that I try to work as hard as I can. Don't let anyone outwork me, and just perform my best.
You came into Syracuse as a kicker and a punter. Looking back on your time at Syracuse, would you have rather done more of place kicking than punting? I mean, how do you see it? Obviously, your punting ability was put in a spotlight and it's offered the opportunity for you. Obviously, you've taken those moments and turned them into an opportunity, more than one opportunity in the NFL. So, how would you view it? I mean, if you could go back, would you have liked to have, been the place kicker and the punter, more so both all the time, or are you okay with the fact that you were shifted to the punting world?
Really, I mean, I enjoyed everything that I did there. I was, doing whatever I could to help the team win. That's all I really wanted to do. I remember, my junior year when we went 10-3 and went to the Campbell Bowl. Like that was, all I wanted to do was win football games. So I don't really look back and wish I did, anything else, because I think everything kind of played out how it's supposed to. I know when I was getting recruited, it's kind of like we want you to come in because you can do all three, and we'll see where you fit best.
Yeah.
So I know it gave me the best opportunity to go in because I knew that I could, perform wherever they needed me. So if they had a punter that, all of a sudden started performing really well, then it's like, okay, maybe we can shift them to field goals or shift them to just kickoffs. So there's never really a time that I was wanting to do necessarily more unless it was asked upon. You know, when I was there, we had great kickers. We had Andre, so like there's no need for me to kick field goals, but I helped as much as I could doing my punts and doing kickoffs. So I enjoyed everything I did there, and just blessed for the opportunities I had.
It's a thankless job, and a lot of times people don't pay attention unless you do it wrong. It's one of those weird jobs that if you do it right, nobody says anything, right? They go get a hot dog, they go get a beer, they're not paying attention. But when things go awry, then it becomes a topic of conversation. What can you say about living in that world of, kickoffs and punts, that when you do your job right, 99.9% of the time, there's not a lot of conversation about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the self belief that you have in yourself. So for me, I always believed I could do it. I've done it in practice countless times, so I just knew that whatever is asked upon me, I could do. It also, the confidence of the coaches helped a ton. So like Coach Lustig would always ask, hey, what do you want to do on this punt? Do you want to go right? Do you want to go left? Do you want to rugby it? What are you thinking? So it wasn't just like, here, I want you to punt the ball right, and I'm sitting there like, I don't want to punt this ball right.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to do. So it was really good communication on all aspects. So that's why I was kind of able to perform my best. And then, like you said, it's a tough job where you don't get to basically redo anything. So it's just kind of going out there. And honestly, like a lot of times I kind of like black out to where I just let my body take over. So like my brain, like I just go away pretty much, and I just punt. Like all I remember is catching the ball, punting it, and nothing else comes to my mind.
How do you do that? We hear about sports all the time, mentally tough. And in the world, especially the last 2 years, we've learned you got to be mentally tough in life. It's not just in sports, it's literally in everything. We have to learn how to be mentally tough. In the world we live in today, people not only can tell you their opinions on how you live your life if you're on social media, but they could do it instantaneously. How do you stay strong mentally? And how do you, like you said, you black out? How do you block out everything else and just lock in? Because that's something that a lot of people are trying to tap into today as they listen to this conversation and watch it as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that's just kind of naturally come to me, or maybe I trained it by accident. But it's just something that I get out there, and it's kind of helps me control the nerves, not overthink when I'm out there. Like during practice, I'm there 100% to where like I'm really focusing on everything I do. But when I get to a game, all I want to do is punt the football as best as I can. I'm not trying to really focus on like, oh, make sure I do this and this and this. Like that's what practice is for. So going out there and just knowing that I can do it is number one, and two is visualizations. I did that a lot. My senior year is when I kind of started doing it, and just visualizing every aspect, trying to remember, like trying to think of everything that come up. What if the wind is going this direction? What if this? Like And so it's just trying to put yourself in those situations before you get there so that it's kind of just like you already did it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, something that's natural, but also, training that the current punters on Syracuse's team this past season for 2021 struggled. There was three on the roster. Really, nobody had. This wasn't, Syracuse was spoiled again with people not talking about it enough. But Syracuse was spoiled that when the baton was passed, you got your Rob Longs, your Riley Dixons, and you in recent history. There's a lot to be said about the incredible talent Syracuse has had in a very short amount of time and how you guys were there to, obviously pass the torch to each other. What would be your advice to the punters on the team currently coming off a season where there was a lot of mishaps, a lot of short punts, a lot of shanks? What would you tell them about moving forward? Because again, when you do your job right, it's not really talked about. But this year, a lot of people talking about Syracuse special teams because of the mishaps. So, what would you say to the current punting crew on Syracuse's team?
Yeah, I mean, I know everyone else I know I saw it too. Everyone else talking about it, and I mean, what people forget is like you talk about passing the baton, and I even think about it as the fact that like my last 2 years I did really well, and then Nolan did really well his last year. So that's
Yeah.
3 straight years of really good punting, and so now you're expecting a true freshman or a redshirt freshman to take over and do that well. And I can tell you, like my redshirt freshman year, I remember, like I know looking back, I was like, man, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Like it was just like a whole new world of punting. Like, yeah, you've done it for a while, but college football and high school football are totally different. So, I mean, looking back at how much I grew from my redshirt freshman year to my junior year to senior year is like crazy. So, I mean, I look at it and I'm not really in a sense worried too much because if you have the right mindset, you can overcome it. I know I've met Ian, I've met pretty much all the punters. So I know like they have the ability to do that and kind of just get back in their mental space, forget about last year. You can't do anything to fix it and just move on to the next season. Do what you can best to move on and just perform your best.
Rob Long, outside of what he had to go through off the field, he had the road to opportunity in the NFL. Riley Dixon obviously has found life in the NFL. We have seen you have life in the NFL. Nolan Cooney, the Saints immediately had given an opportunity when he was coming out of Syracuse. Just what you could say about that string of punting success and to be a part of that group.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I know also like just being like I was there my first year. Riley was there, so I learned a lot from Riley. Just being a freshman, him being a senior, getting prepared for the NFL, and having 3 years under his belt. So I learned a lot from him. Rob Long came around a lot, so I always like talked to him when he was there. And then Nolan was there my redshirt freshman year through my senior year. So there's always like kind of competition there between us. So that kind of always pushed me to be better. So, it's really cool to be a part of that whole group and just kind of perform how I did and like versus all the other ones. But, we all had our strengths that we did something really well. So it was a blast though, to be kind of in that line with everyone else.
Yeah, and it was an incredible run for Syracuse, and hopefully that positive will continue here with Sterling Hofrichter. The opportunity for you continuing in the NFL. You started coming out of Syracuse with an opportunity with the Falcons, stayed in the NFC South with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Bring me into once you finished up at Syracuse, just the whole process of getting an opportunity with Atlanta, because I think it's important for players to hear this, student athletes to hear just what you had to go through just to get that opportunity in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's a long road, and for me it was really interesting too because of COVID. So basically, I got done with the season. Usually, when the season ends, I kind of hang up the cleats for 2 months or so to recover, kind of disconnect from football, and just kind of for school, get like focus on school, go on winter vacation, come back, focus on school again, and then it's like time to put the cleats back on and start getting back into my punting form. But obviously, you're not that long of a transition time. So I got done, went down to Florida, went down there for a little bit, came back, and had my combine invite. So then ended up going, I went out to Arizona for training, trained in Syracuse, and then went to the combine, came back, and then pretty much COVID hit right after that. So I had no pro day or anything else. So pretty much I picked up most of my stuff, went back down to Florida because there was a lot less lockdown than New York was. Went down there, and I mean, there were portions of time where they locked all the parks, so I couldn't even punt on a field. So I'd have to go to like a retention pond ditch and just punt wherever I could. Um, so it was very interesting, but it was rewarding at the same time. So I learned a lot, and it's a long road. So then after that, I basically did some videos to try to get like a virtual pro day out there to the coaches, and then as draft day got closer and closer, I heard a lot from the Falcons. Even had a phone call with Dan Quinn, the head coach at the time, and I had a good feeling that they might draft me with the 7th round pick, but I knew that if they didn't, I was probably going to go there anyways because they had the most interest in me leading up to it and really had like the belief in me. So the draft day came, and I was very nervous the whole day, just kind of excited but nervous, and then end up getting drafted, and the rest from there is history. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and not only did you get drafted in the 7th round there in the 2020 NFL draft by the Falcons, but you spent the entire season as their punter. Just what that meant to you to have that conversation with Dan Quinn, have that the connection, the bridge to the Falcons to get drafted, because people don't get it. There's 7 rounds, there's 200 and some odd players drafted. There's thousands of players trying to find jobs here and find an opportunity. There's a very, very tiny percentage that gets it, whether it's the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way to the 7th round. So for you to get drafted and have that opportunity, number one, what did that mean to you? And then number two, to come on to the team and have them say, okay, well, guess what? We drafted you. We need a punter. And then for you to actually fight for and retain that job.
Yeah, it was like you said, the drafting, it's blessing. Like not many people, like people sit there and say, oh, 250 people got drafted, but like you said, there's so many people from every team trying to get drafted, and usually most drafts it's between 5 to 7 specialists get drafted. So you're talking about 5 to 7 out of 250, which is really just difficult to do. But so it was a lot of fun and cool to get drafted, and then like you said, going into Atlanta. I guess they liked what they saw the first couple of days I was there, and then ended up cutting the other guy before he really ever reported to camp. And then, went out there and just did my best throughout the whole season. It was kind of difficult because we didn't have any preseason games because of COVID. So my first NFL game was, game 1 of the regular season. So it was kind of like a lot of pressure, but also it was really cool to kind of get a different, get that first game underneath my belt at the high level and just try to go from there.
And we look back at that season, your rookie season, to not only have a season in the NFL, but as a rookie to be drafted and to play all 16 games. Looking back at your stats, you had 22 kickoffs for over 1,300 yards, 72.7% on touchbacks. And then punts, you had 56 punts, over 2,300 yards. Your longest one, 57 yards that season. When you look back on those numbers, how do you feel like you performed? And again, here you are on kickoffs and punts like you were doing at Syracuse.
Yeah, I know I could have done way better, and that's kind of what drives me to continue to get onto a team and perform. Is I know I can do better than what I did that season. So I mean, to me, I didn't look as a bad start. Got the first season underneath my belt, got a feel for how everything rolls. So yeah, just excited to kind of go off of that and just continue to perform.
How do you gauge as a kickoff specialist and as a punter? How do you yourself gauge success?
Yeah, so everyone's different. Even every coach is different too on what they want. Like some some coaches on kickoffs, they just want you to blast the touchback every time. Some coaches want you to hang it high and put it around the 1 yard line, make them return it. Same thing with punts. Some just want you to bomb it as far as you can. Just, if you punt it 60 yards, they return it 15. It's still a 45-yard net, where some want you to just hit a 45-yard punt, fair catch every time. So it really depends on, who you're around as coaches. And then also kind of like for me, I'm not really the big ball guy. I'm not going to hit 60-yard punts consistently, but I think I can do really well at, putting the ball by the sideline, putting hang time, and getting just fair catches.
So, for you, like you said, different coaches want different things. How do you assess, having some time in Tampa after in Atlanta? I know you said you want to do better, but what determines better? When you look back on your experience in the NFL, where would you like yourself to be at this point? Are there things that you have kind of circled and said, okay, as I train, as I try out, this is what I want to show a team?
Yeah, when I had my workout with the Bucks and got signed, the biggest thing they wanted was just more hang time. So I was hitting, I want to say around 4.5s. They want more 4.7, 4.8s. So, for me, the biggest thing is work on hang time, work on consistency, like always, and just trying to hit, the same ball every time, and just show that I can, be counted on to put the ball where it needs to be with the right hang time and everything.
Yeah, and for you to have an opportunity in Tampa, I mean, obviously, for the time that you were there, we know that this roster has included the GOAT, Tom Brady. It's included Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, as well as Ndamukong Suh, Will Golston, Vita Vea, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, and so on and so forth. What can you say about being a part of this team? Because as I know from this would be my 12th year covering the Jaguars on site on location in some respect, when you're in a locker room, punters aren't, put in a different room. There's no kicker, punter. Hey, you're like the fifth running back and you're our return specialist. You go somewhere else. I mean, in the Jaguars room, and I don't know how it's been in Atlanta and Tampa, but in the Jaguars locker room, right by the quarterback, your kicker and your punter were right there in our Jaguars room. So what has the experience been like to be in Tampa? And did you have much interaction with some of the names that I just called off that obviously are extremely talented guys at their craft, and some of them arguably the best?
Yeah, I didn't really have too much interaction, mostly because I got there, end of the season. And, I feel like that's when everyone's really trying to lock in even more to focus on playoffs. Because when I was there, it wasn't just like, oh, we're in the playoffs, it's, settle. It's like, if we can go get the second round, the second seed, we can go really far. We can be the home team for at least 2 games. So I didn't really go out of my way too much. I was just kind of there to kind of show support and, wherever I was needed. So I wasn't, interacting with them too much. I wasn't sitting there on the sideline, like far away from everyone, avoiding everyone, but I wasn't trying to make small talk here and there. But it was cool. Like the game against the Panthers I played in, I was like my locker was like right across from Tom Brady's. So I'm sitting there like, and it gets to your head a little bit to where you're like, wow, I'm really like on the same team as Tom Brady. Like, this is insane. But at the same time, you're just trying to lock it out and focus on your job. And, I just kind of look at it as, it's any other person. He's super low key. Everyone's like, that's one thing I noticed when I got to Atlanta. Like, you sit there thinking like, oh, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, but they're all just kind of down to earth guys. They just want to play football. And it's not like you have to, fangirl over them or anything. They just think that they're regular people as well.
I mean, and that's the thing. You've gotten to be on teams with incredible players. And like you said, they're kind of just themselves and they keep it to themselves. Knowing that if Tom does hang it up for good, which I don't know if I'll ever believe it, as long as I'm alive, I think he'll play football. But in in the world that we're in today, if he was to hang it up, be it a couple games for you at Tampa, what does it mean to you that you were part of Tom Brady, arguably to many people, the best quarterback that has ever lived, that you were a part of that ride, the last ride?
Yeah, I think it's something that I'll kind of always talk about, probably probably more in my older days when I'm done playing to be like I was on the same team as Tom Brady at one point. Um, but like as you know, the time I think that would be more when I'm done playing football as well. Where now I'll just be focused on the next season, the next game, etc.
Bruce Arians as a head coach, how did you take him? What did you think about, who he is, his style, knowing that, now you have another opportunity with the Bucks. So what's it like to work under Bruce?
Yeah, I think he's a great coach. Kind of like the same. He's a real players coach, and he's just kind of like you guys know what you guys need to do. Um, we might have had some of the shortest post practice breakdowns I've ever heard in my life. It's just like great, great practice. Bring again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, and like that's it. Like so, he knows like that we're professional athletes, that we know what we're doing. But when time comes to, he'll also kick into gear and get the players going as well.
And, having this opportunity with the Bucks, describe kind of what it is. You and I were talking about it off the air, but what you have here now and, what this could be for you as you look forward to an upcoming season in the NFL and hopefully at this point with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's just another competition aspect, which I always love having competition. So just gonna go in there and try my best, and even if I don't end up on the Bucks, but I do really well preseason, maybe another team calls. So I have a really good feeling about this season. Of I'm gonna have my opportunities just like I did this past season. So I'm excited for what the plan is and what kind of happens.
You're an NFL kicker, you're an NFL specialist. You have lived in this world. No matter what happens from here, you did it. You made it. Like you said, such a small number, less than 300 players drafted in 7 rounds in the entire world for the NFL, not just this country, because there's people trying to make it from out of the country as well. Less than 300, like you said, five, maybe specialists, seven specialists, a draft. To know that you made it, you attained it, you got here. I know you're still hungry. I know you're young. I know you've only had a couple seasons, so there's plenty more to work toward. But what does that mean when I say to you, no matter what happens from here, you will always be an NFL kickoff specialist. You will always be an NFL punter. You will always be an NFL starter, and you will always be an NFL draftee.
Yeah, it's really cool, and we've talked about that a lot. With the Falcons, with the player development, where they talk about like use the NFL Shield, like use that for when you're done playing, whether it's your choice to be done or whether it's things don't work out, but don't be afraid to always use that shield and kind of use that for connections. So it's something that I've kind of done the past over a year. Like even last year, last off season, I did some virtual internships, kind of like workshops is what they called it. And then this year I'm doing a couple as well. So just kind of trying to prepare for, when it doesn't, and also to try to, increase my knowledge for if there's things I want to do during football, investment wise, or, preparing myself for when football ends. But it's always cool to, realize that I made it and I did it for, at least 1 year. So just trying to continue to build on it and see how far I can take it.
There's 32 jobs when it comes to punters in the NFL, and you got to be a starter in that case. What is your advice to specialists that are out there? Because it is so slim, it is so hard. And let's be honest, if you're a good place kicker, if you're a good punter, if you're a good specialist overall, a good long snapper, you might keep your job for 10, 12, 15 years. It's very difficult to get in there. And I've had guys that I know try to find those jobs as kickers and punters. So what are your thoughts on that and your advice on threading the needle, knowing that you've been one of 32?
Yeah, really the biggest thing, number one, is just believing yourself. I mean, I know when I came out of high school, I had people tell me that I was too short to be a punter in college. And then to punt in the NFL, it's kind of like just proof that if you believe in yourself, that it doesn't matter what other people think. And also there's always gonna be certain coaches that believe in you. Like maybe one coach on one team doesn't believe that you can do it, but another coach somewhere else believes that you can. So it's also trying to find out where that is and try to, make your opportunity there, and then always just trying to get your foot into the door, and then just continue to kind of, push it open. It's not the easiest thing to do to try to get into the NFL, like we talked about, but if you do the right things and show what you can do, there's a lot of coaches who would, want people who are trying to, be coachable, be professional, and etc.
What would you say about speaking here with Sterling Hofrichter inside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in the Cafe Kubal studios before I let you go from Armwood to Syracuse to the NFL? The agent side of things, what advice would you give in that world? Because I know that that can pay off dividends, and in other places it can hurt you. And I know guys that have come out of Syracuse where, the things didn't work out agent wise. And then there's other guys that have had good opportunities. So what advice would you give when it comes to finding the right agent?
Yeah, I remember going through the agent process. It's weird because you're used to, people, basically like hiring you. Like, so coaches like, we want you to come to Syracuse. We want to draft you. Where, when you get to this point, you're 20 something year old trying to, hire someone else. You're trying to figure out who the best fit is for you. And, for me, first of all, I had people reaching out to me my senior season, like during the middle of it, and I didn't even want to deal with it. So I pushed all that aside, kind of gave them, a generic message to email my sister. She was going to, talk to them until the season's over. And then when the season ended, I, had a list of my top 3 and kind of went through that. And, the agent I picked was probably the agent that offered me the least amount of money, which to me, like I told him straight from the get-go, like, I'm not trying to make money from you. I'm trying to make money from the NFL. Like, the only help I need is, the money I need to get through, paying for a place to live, training, etc. Versus here's 30 grand, you can go buy a car. Like, I didn't need that. So, but it's just trying to figure out who's best for you. So, I mean, I feel like it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has different needs or wants from an agent. For me, I didn't want a big time guy. I wanted someone who would be more focused on me. And for me, I knew punting, kicking wise, like camps and trainings that I wanted to do. So I didn't really need someone to tell me, hey, you should go this one, you should go this one. It was kind of like, I know where I want to go. And then I'd tell him and he'd pay for it and everything be set up.
How strange is it that you were at Armwood, and I know obviously driving down in the Tampa area, like that's where you're putting yourself. And so when I'm driving, and I know Florida very well, it's the second hub of Wake Up Call. And so to know that on the way to Tampa St. Pete, here's Armwood, and then you're on the Tampa Bay Bucks, did it feel like really, really kind of strangely eerie, but also cool to you that it's like, oh, hey, I'm home, but I'm in the NFL this time?
Yeah, absolutely. It was super cool to be back, in my hometown where I grew up my whole life. And actually, since I was practice squad, I didn't know how long I was going to be there. I lived at my parents' house for the 5 or 6 weeks I was there, so I was getting I was getting free rent the whole time I was there. So it was really cool to kind of be back and be near, where I grew up. And I'm hoping that maybe it's a long-term thing because I'd love to kind of be in that area because I know it so well, and be near the high school that I went to help them out with anything that they want or need. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity.
Is there a thought that you, or have you done some training? So even, with your dream of playing in the NFL and continuing to be in the NFL, is there a side kind of training for you that you're also working on that you want to make sure that you're doing? And then what is the long term? Is it coaching? Is it being a special teams coordinator? How do you see the story of Sterling Hofrichter evolving?
Yeah, so training, like I haven't trained other kickers or punters. I just kind of work out on my own. I don't necessarily train them. I've had some high school guys here in Atlanta that I've actually reached out to who are going to college. And I'm like, hey, you want to just come out and punt with me? Like, I'm not charging them anything. If they just want to come out and punt, I'll toss them footballs. They toss me footballs, and just be cool about it and everything like that. And then when it comes to when I'm done, I haven't really decided what I want to do. I might use my master's degree and try to do medical sales, which is one thing that I want to do. Or maybe coach. I haven't really, I haven't narrowed that down yet. So we'll see when time comes.
Brady Denneberg, a friend of mine, just signed with Syracuse. He is a mentee of Nate Trout, who is one of the best kickers in the history of Syracuse football. Merritt Island to Syracuse. Any words of advice for Brady Denneberg as he gets set to head to Syracuse?
Pack your winter clothes. It's cold, but it's a really cool campus. A lot of good people there. A lot of good opportunities. And one thing, like I remember when I went to Syracuse, when they offered me, I had no idea where Syracuse University even was. Like I had zero clue that was in the middle of New York. And now that I'm done, if I'm ever playing around at golf and I have a Syracuse hat on, like pretty much 9 times out of 10, people are like, "Oh, Syracuse! I know someone who went there." I'm like, I didn't realize, all the connections that Syracuse has. So, it's a great school. Football program, I think, is gonna, be on its way up as well. And I mean, I kind of wish I played in that new dome too. So that's kind of it's one thing I miss about college. But yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Playing in the new dome, but last year, I want to get your take on this. Syracuse did not have a special teams coordinator last year. Justin Lustig moved on. Dino did not replace it. And he has since replaced, and there will be a new special teams coordinator for 2022. But how would you have handled being a special teams player without a coordinator? Like, what are your thoughts on the fact that Syracuse went a year without one?
I mean, to me, like I don't think it's necessarily too big of a deal. I mean, I don't know the insides of how they did it over there. Um, I mean, I know like if I was back there being the senior, being the older guy, like I definitely would have been, trying to help be a leader, help show the way. Because I remember like I can probably still go through most of the drills that we did at Syracuse and help out with whatever. So, um, the biggest thing is just trying to help out if there isn't a coach there, or if there's a new coach as well, just trying to help out. He'll help you, you help him, and that's the best that you can do.
I got to hit you with these quick in conclusion here. Do you have a favorite punt of all time for you?
Mm, I think one of my favorite punts might have been, I think it was senior year against Wake Forest. I had a punt downed at like the 6 yard line, but we had an illegal formation, so I had to repunt it, and then I downed it at like the 4. So that was kind of cool to see, back to back punts that I could, perform like that.
How difficult is it? What are the bring me into what you have to think of? I know that there's natural talent in this, but it's like I liken punting and kicking to trying to make a golf ball go into a hole 400 yards away. How do you gauge? I mean, I know when you're in the dome, there's no wind and whatnot, but how do you gauge the elements? How do you gauge, the air itself, how you have to kick it, where you have to kick it? I mean, there's so many things that go into it, and people think it's so easy. Oh, just kick the ball. No, it's very, very difficult. So can you bring me into the mechanics and teach me about the science of it? And did Tom Brady deflate any of the balls to help you out?
Yeah, I mean, I've always compared kicking and punting to golf as well. There's so many things that go into it, and one little, mess up, and it could be a shank, just like in golf. I mean, I remember seeing videos of Justin Thomas hitting a complete shank, in the middle of the fairway, and it's like, what just happened? So it's definitely something that you kind of take into consideration is all the wind. Where you are. If you're in Denver, the ball's going to go further. If you're, somewhere cold, it's going to go shorter. So there's a lot of things that go into play there. So really, it's one, just preparation, just thinking about it leading up to the game. Also getting your warm up punts in. Hey, with this wind, can I still go right, or do I have to go all left going this way? Or going into the wind, when do I start doing my pooch punts, or do I just hit spirals the whole time? So there's so much that goes into it, and it's just, there's also games where I feel like you can't really prepare for it, like the Patriots Bills game this year, where it's like 30-mile-per-hour winds. It's just you just go out there and try to punt the ball and just hope it goes past the line of scrimmage. Really, like there's no helping that. So there's just a lot that goes into it, and it's just the belief that you can do it.
You played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium with the Falcons, where it can be indoor or it can open up. You played inside the dome, and obviously you've played in places like Tampa where it's outside, and you've gone on the road for games as well. How would you gauge the indoor outdoor world? Do you have a favorite stadium to play in, college pro? And do you have a least favorite place that you would like to not have to kick in again?
Man, that's a hard one. I think one of my favorite places, I don't know if I'm gonna get hate for this or not, would be Clemson. Just the environment that they have there, and also my junior year, like how well I performed there, or maybe my junior year, how well I performed there and stuff. It's really cool place to play. It's something special. So I feel like that's one of my favorites. And then least favorite, I'm gonna stick with college football again. I'm gonna say Wake Forest because every time I played there is the worst weather I've ever played in my life. Or Louisville. That was another one that was just always windy and rainy every time I played.
Yeah, Wake always seems to have bad weather. My final point here is Atlanta for Jersey. I know you're moving forward. I know you have an opportunity with Tampa, but did you save enough Atlanta jerseys that I could put one in my Hall of Fame wing of my office? That's my question.
I'll have to look because I know I bought every single jersey, but I don't know how many I've given away or how many I'm giving away to people that have helped me along the way. So I'll have to look into that and see.
Well, you look at and see if you can. The first one that ever went up in my office was from a good friend, John Strajewski, who played with Joe Flacco in Delaware. And he went into the Arena League, played for the Philadelphia Soul. And so the first thing I ever put up was from a specialist. But if there is one, all I know is when I saw you out there and I saw you got the job, and I know that you were locked in at the time, and I'm happy we finally got to talk now. I said to myself, that's one of those jerseys that means a lot to me because of the person that's wearing it. And I hope you felt that. And I hope you've known that over the years, Sterling, that from the day I got to talk to you to now, I'm very proud of you. I'm happy for you. And it's meant the world to me because I still remember driving by Armwood, like I said, still remember talking to you on the phone and hearing about you. And now to, have you be an NFL specialist is such an incredible feat to accomplish. And I'm super proud of you. So I hope you feel that through the airwaves. And I hope you know that you have had my respect since day zero.
I appreciate that.